Yay! We are live. Welcome, everybody. We are going to wait just a few moments to see if a few more people want to join us today, and then I will get this going. It's going to leave the main class splash on the screen. Today is a fun one. As I'm thinking here, I got my coffee over here ready to drink before I really get the formal kickoff going. I know for me and preparing for today, it was just really awesome. I have a good feeling this will probably be one that will resonate with a lot of people. So really can't wait to go through this one. But either way, whether we have one person, 20 people, hundreds, thousands, I promise to always give you the best and most awesome Professor Schermerhorn on the topic for today. So just going to wait just another moment, and then I will kick off the formal lecture here. These live streams are always fun. I think it's important for teachers, professors, students, it's for all of us, to connect. And so I teach music appreciation and American music. Sometimes I'll teach fundamentals. Of course, I'm a professional percussionist, so I'm teaching, percussionists that, want to be, music educators, performers, engineers, all these kind of things. And it's while the some of the classes I teach, they're all it's online, kind of do things at your own pace. I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of fun to do something like this where it's like you can actually see me talking about the class. In the past I used to do these things on SoundCloud, but now I'm like, well, why don't I try this and see if this makes it a little bit more fun for all of us. So, okay, well, we've been going for a couple minutes, so let me get we'll do the formal kickoff now. Okay. So how about here we go again? Coffee. Okay. Yay! We are live. Welcome, everybody. I'm Mr. Schermerhorn, music and percussion instructor, STC South Texas College. Today, we conclude the Elements of Music lecture series with the stories behind the music. Our three goals for today are: why are we drawn to music? Why are we drawn to the music? What's the story behind the song Yesterday, the Beatles, Paul McCartney? What's the story behind the song Under the Bridge, the Red Hot Chili Peppers? All right, let's get into it. We all listen to music for different reasons and different kinds of things. Have you ever asked yourself why you are so drawn to that song, artist, or album? Many years ago, I didn't really think that deeply about music the way I do now. For me, in my skateboard days and playing drums in a rock band, I just enjoyed the music. I didn't really get into the stories or details or anything to do with elements, or so I thought. You see, I say that now, but when I really think back to all those wonderful years, there were a lot of emotional connections to music that I was making, and they were because of the story. I was drawn to all kinds of music, like most of us are today, but I didn't always know why or really understand. Sometimes I connected to the story of the song and the lyrics, or the MTV video. Yes, that used to be cool. MTV used to play videos 24/7, and it was awesome. Okay. When I look back now with my formal training in music and my gig experience with live music, it all starts to make sense. So, I used to listen to songs like there was REM. There's a song called "Losing My Religion." Now, at the time, I didn't really know why, but as I sat and thought about why did I listen to that song? Why was I drawn to REM, or why that specific song? So, when I think back, I start to remember that I was a little sad. I was sad for a few days, and this song actually helped get that happiness back. Um, and I know that might sound odd or weird, but it's the truth. Sometimes when we're down, struggling, have obstacles, um, we may be drawn to a song that we might think is sad, but a lot of times the goal is to get us back to happiness. So that's one thing I could share with you. Another thing, years ago, I lost a best friend. I turned on the radio. I heard a Coldplay song. The song by Coldplay is called Fix You. Now, this is hard for me to talk about without tearing up, but I can tell you, whether it was on the radio or maybe I had the CD. CDs used to be the way we listen to music in the old days. And you can still buy CDs today, and occasionally I will buy a CD for maybe my favorite band, artist, whether it be percussion, orchestra, or Eminem or whoever. At any rate, I was really torn up about losing, a friend. Whenever you lose somebody, family, friend, I mean, goodness, you could lose your puppy. There's no rules on loss. The thing about loss is it's hard for everybody. And so we, as humans, we're trying to find a way to connect with as humans, our big things, we want to connect with people. Like connection is the most important thing. As much as many of us are fans of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I want to encourage and challenge everyone to push that stuff to the side. And if you have an opportunity to have a real face-to-face conversation, please connect. So important for humanity to just to continue to thrive. This connection. Um, so loss, whether it's me or anybody else, loss is it's hard to deal with. It's a struggle. So when I lost this best friend, it you know I listened to the song and it was hard. It's hard for all of us, but it helped. The song helped me get through it. So, but every time I listen to the song, I am reminded of that friend. And while it's maybe a little bit sad from time to time, it starts to turn into those happy moments where you get those happy videos and or pictures. It's that remembering that leads it to the happiness. Music is such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Okay, so now music is not just for when we're down, struggling, or sad from loss. Music can also be uplifting, inspiring, just happy, good vibes. Okay, so how about those, happy moments? I have tons of happy moments. My happy moments, they go on and on and on. Let's start with, I don't know, I don't want to say that it's necessarily my favorite, but hopefully as I do this, it will catch your attention and you will start to think about your happy moments. Remember, music is not just major and minor. Music is not just happy and sad. Um, there is no right or wrong way to listen to music, to play music, to enjoy music. There is no really good or bad music. I mean, we live in a world of opinions and drama and gossip and so many other things. So I say that to hopefully be inspiring that like your music is your music for whatever the reason is you enjoy or listen to that music, whether it be music for the gym or music for road trips or music in between classes or music while you're doing the dishes or you're actually at a concert like this of course us teachers, professors, mentors, it's like we can go all day on these kind of things, right? It'll be one of the common things you'll hear me say, but the point being is that that's the music is to you what it is to you, we've heard artists like Bob Dylan and so many others where someone will, years and years ago, you can go to YouTube and you can listen to an interview with Bob Dylan, and someone will ask the question, Bob Dylan or Mr. Dylan, can you tell us why you wrote that song, or can you tell us what this song is about? And you'll find clips where he's kind of snappy about some of that, and he's like, what does the song mean to you? What do you think it means? Not verbatim, but sometimes artists can get touchy about everybody wanting to dissect everything. And so I find myself in between both worlds of being a modern professional percussionist, having classical formal training, but also having the road gig band training experience as well, where like I'm playing drums in a band, but you know, I play in a symphony orchestra now. So I've always found it interesting how different the hangouts are, whether it's a symphony orchestra or I'm playing in a rock band. Um, all the fun is awesome and still just equally as amazing and the same. But there are like very cool things that I've been able to bring to both of those arenas. So, in terms of emotional connection to music, it's not just black and white or gray, and it's not just major, minor, happy, sad. Music can hit home on a wide range of sentiments, colors, and really music. As you'll hear me say at the end of the lecture today, it's really the eye of the beholder, and that's you, you know. So, the happy moment. The year is 2003. I'm at the Percussive Arts Society International Convention in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, I was still in college getting my undergraduate degree in music performance at the University of Texas at Arlington, and I had been competing in the PASIC. We call that PASIC the acronym for the Percussive Arts Society International Convention, which I struggle to say with braces. All right. But at the PASIC College Snare Drum Competition, I've been doing that for 3 years. This was it. It's my last one. I'd done it 3 years in a row, and 2003 was my last year as a student getting my degree in music performance at UT Arlington. It was my last and my final third year in the comp. So, when you participate for multiple years in something like drum and bugle corps, indoor drumline, summer camps, basketball, fishing, chess, math, coding, swimming, etc., the list goes on these kind of things. But here's the point. You make a lot of wonderful friends, and many of them are for life. You get so close at these kinds of things because you are living for days, weeks, or months, and you will attend these big shorter events for multiple years, like these conventions. While it's just 2, 3, 4 days, you're going on years in for the span of a career, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So you make a lot of friends, and while the spans and the gatherings are different, there's a lot of friends to be made, and it's a lot of fun to be had for sure. So, the percussion convention is just a few days, but the bonds you make also in competitive music and, of course, competitive sports. Oh yeah, those connections. It's like it goes beyond your lifetime. It lasts a lifetime and beyond. Those connections it's wicked, just wicked awesome. And hopefully you'll experience that, or you already have. So, what happens next at the PASIC drum competition? This is where things, well, I think it's pretty awesome, or it's really about to get interesting. Is that we're all drumming in the warm-up room in Louisville, Kentucky. We're laughing, just having a good time, hanging out, chilling, vibing, as you might say, or some say. We were playing things together like universal warm-ups or other popular things of the time, and then one by one, we started to take a break. And before many of us know it, we are in the bathroom or restroom, whatever you want to call it, and washing our hands. Just it's like checking our hair, washing our hands. How do I look? And people have we all have some kind of listening device. If you were to go to Google and look up what was the listening devices for the year 2003, well, that's a fun one. So I won't spoil all of the thunder. At any rate, we put our cool music stuff down for a moment, and then this part I don't remember, but what I remember is the song. Someone starts singing, and then at a particular point in the bathroom, restroom, we all start singing. Let's see, it was "Lose Yourself." We all start singing the song "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. Now I think Eminem put out the "Lose Yourself" song. I want to say maybe that was 2002, and of course written for his bio movie. But wow, what an amazing event. We're like, we're competitive. Everybody wants to do well, but we'd been doing that for so many years. Everyone just got to be so close and knew each other. In 1 minute, we're just jamming, playing some drums, warming up, chatting, and then we're taking turns playing our solos for each other. A lot of times we think fierce competition is like mean and not friendly and everyone wants to get first place, but that's when you're in it, that's not actually how it is. It can look like that for some people, or it can feel like that in some organizations. But I would say if it's like that in that organization, give another organization a shot. If it's self-imposed by yourself, there, you know, uh, competition. A lot of times we talk about how, like, does greatness fuel competition? Does competition fuel greatness? Is there more I could say on that? Sure, but the big thing about competitive things is it pushes you. It pushes you to be, a better person. It pushes you to be a better sportsman, a better musician, on all fronts. So I think as fierce as and competitive as things may get in sports, music, and more, it's not as cutthroat or fierce as it might look like for those looking at it from the outside in. When you're in, like you just like oh, this is actually a really cool, awesome vibe. And if it's not, that's what I was saying earlier. You explore all the vibe options and groups and whatnot for whatever you're doing. But um, we're all singing Eminem. That's the point. We're singing that song. Super happy. I'll never forget that moment. I'm not going to sing it for you today, nor I'll ever do that. But I had a great 3-year run. I will never forget the happiness of that singing moment. And our draw specifically was the lyrics in that moment. We were drawn to the lyrics, and we were really pumped. Okay, here's another one for you. I'm driving in my car. I'm with my wife. We were listening to the radio, and a Snoop Doggy Dogg song comes on. And I'm like, yeah, all right. My son, who was not born yet, seemed to really like the song and let us know it's some kicking, you know. And, okay, well, maybe this sounds far fetched, or maybe the music was just too loud. At any rate, it's such a cool and great memory. So, I could keep going. As I said earlier, I could go all day with all these happy song moments. I actually have quite a lot of them. Um, I will say that you know with YouTube today and so many other outlets like social media, websites, blogs, e-commerce, we really do have a good bit of the world at our fingertips. And how we consume our daily dose of music, or what some might say our daily dose of medicine. Like music can be your daily dose of medicine, as Evelyn Glennie says in her TED Talk. How to truly listen. It's yeah, there's something to it there. Um, that how we consume, it's of course changed over time, and will probably continue to do so. We'll all be watching that one. Watchful eye, of course. Maybe some of the reasons we are so drawn to music is that there is some kind of connection we have to the song. And that connection might just be the melody or rhythm. It could be the lyrics, word for word, and how some of us feel that the song is talking to us, or that the song is about us, or that the song is about you. It's about you. Sometimes we're drawn to music for just move, groove, and dance. And that's cool too. Music is in the eye of the beholder, and that's for all of us. All right. Let's take a look at yesterday, the Beatles, Paul McCartney. Moving forward with the stories behind the music. While I didn't give you my full story, I think my point in just the last few minutes was to get us thinking about, why are we drawn to music? Now, and of course that included some stories too. So let's get into the Beatles here, and Paul, and what's this song all about? What's the story? So I want to start with Paul lost his mom when he was young. And when you listen to Yesterday by the Beatles, we say by the Beatles because of the partnership duo of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and they were very insistent on the Beatles. So we're going to talk more about that in the upcoming Beatles lecture. Typically, I do 1 or 2 lectures on the Beatles, so more details because that's next in the series. After this video, you get some Elvis Presley, and then it's Beatles, and keep moving forward. Okay, so back to Beatles, Paul McCartney. Um, all right, so Paul lost his mom when he was young. When you listen to the song, many people think it's about losing a loved one. Mom, dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife. That is surely possible. Um, Now, when you listen to the song for the very first time and you do not search up anything, you don't Google anything, what comes to your mind? That would be something really awesome for those in music appreciation and/or American music. And you're like, okay, I gotta, what did I learn from all this? That would be something you could do. I mean, now you're gonna have to listen to yesterday, on your own free time. In the live streams, I don't play all the music. It would make these things, hour and a half, 2 hours. It'd make them too long. It would make them quadruple long. So I do include the music appreciation YouTube playlist for all the songs I talk about in the lectures, and I do the same thing for American music, the YouTube playlist. Just listen to the songs. As you hear me say all the time, please listen to the entire song if at all possible. But the most important thing in all the songs is to look at the assignment and look what's the requirement. I may only want you to listen to a particular part or a particular movement, or it may be required like to do well on a particular assignment assessment that you really do digest that song in its entirety. So really just pay attention to assignments in music appreciation, American music. All right, so when you watch the video and you're trying to share what did I learn, or you're like there's a question, I think this is a great question, not to do in the live stream, but to do like after you've watched the live stream, you've watched the lecture, you're coming back to leave a comment, sharing something. I think this would be answering the question. Answer this question that I said earlier. When you listen to the song when you listen to Yesterday by the Beatles, Paul McCartney, for the very first time, and you do not search up anything, what comes to your mind? Boom. Comments. You know that, Okay. Now, for Yesterday, some people believe that this song has a connection to Paul's ex, Jane Asher, whom he met before he wrote the song. However, the breakup does not coincide with the song release. But here's the plot twist. He did write the song while living with his then girlfriend, you guessed it, Jane Asher. Okay. Although it's many years after his mom passes, it is possible that this is, Paul McCartney releasing his pain. Maybe. Some people have talked about that. In an interview with Paul McCartney, he talks about how he woke up from a dream, wrote down the melody early in the morning. Now, the original lyrics were about scrambled eggs. Now, you can read some accounts where when they were trying to figure out the name of the song to go from scrambled eggs to Yesterday, that, oh, well, it was, John Lennon's idea. Or you hear him talking about how they worked on the song for this many months or a year or whatever. There's certainly some different and varied accounts on a lot of this, but the common threads are simply this: he did meet Jane, like Jane and him met before he wrote the song, and he was living with Jane when he wrote the song. I want to say maybe in the attic of the lived with Jane's family. And he did actually have a dream, but when you hear Paul McCartney talk about this on YouTube, there's one video. It's very short and sweet, and there's some interviews. I haven't found one, and you might. There's not something where he just pours out his heart and soul. Maybe on some of these podcasts, which are on my to-do list. I haven't listened to them all, but I did, even as I was prepping for today, I was double checking. Okay, I have some pretty awesome students. I know they're gonna check me on this. So I did listen to Paul talk about it, a few hours ago. I heard him talking about it, and in the different videos or podcast I was able to just double check as I'm getting ready for today. He didn't go on and on. He's pretty much boom, boom, boom. So I'll tell you the sources, and in the once the video after the live stream, I'll put in the notes where you can find the sources that I used in preparing for all this, so you can maybe go watch and hear him say it. But a lot of them are really short and sweet. So what Paul does say is, yes, I woke up from a dream and I did write down the melody, and I wrote about scrambled eggs. On YouTube, he didn't say that he was hungry. Maybe he was. In the YouTube video that I was watching, he didn't talk about hunger or how he wanted sausage or bacon or eggs over it. He just it was really short and sweet and simple. And even the other video I found is pretty much the same thing. So maybe in these podcasts maybe he elaborates more. But at any rate, the original lyrics were about scrambled eggs on the song Yesterday. And with all these different stories about the song floating around, even when you look at all the things that Paul McCartney or John Lennon or anyone but the Beatles, there do seem to be some inconsistencies and of course variations. And this is normal over time. You got to remember that a lot of these things, when we talk about like history and things that happened, when you put years, time, and space in between, things can be embellished. They can be exaggerated. Honestly, they could just be forgotten. And you're like, hey man, like how did that go down? And you're asking your friend how it went down, but you're the one that was leading all the action. So um, while the human brain is miraculous, uh, we can still forget, things here and there. And then as the years go by, and maybe, let's say it's been 30 years, and you're asking an artist like, hey, why'd you write the song, or what was this about, or what's the real deal? You never told us the real deal. Are you willing to maybe share that stuff now? And then maybe they do, but maybe it's they're doing their best to try to. And then a couple days later, they go on another podcast show, whatever, and remembering that this, that's been 30 or so years, and they're asked the same question, but then they give answers a little bit different. But the heart of it, you will get, is the same. So the heart of Yesterday by Beatles, Paul McCartney, it's the same. Like the common threads are, yeah, he's living with Jane. Yes, the original lyrics are about scrambled eggs. No, it has nothing to do with him breaking up with Jane Asher. So these are some common threads there. Um, so if we move down here, now I was saying earlier about his mom passing. This is not my opinion. What I'm sharing with you today is like the facts of what we know, and then the common threads that I've heard, like Paul McCartney, the guy that wrote the song, talk about it on either a podcast or YouTube. Reliable sources, reliable sources. So, what you could listen to get this information and/or more is the Paul McCartney podcast. You can find this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Check it out. You could also check out the Music History Project podcast. You can find this on the NAMM website, National Association of Music Merchants. It's www.namm.org. Also, check out the book, The Beatles from A to Z, an alphabetical mystery tour. It's a great read by Peter Asher. That's a cool one. I cover that a lot more details about that book and many more books in the American Music course, where it's more extensive on the Beatles than, say, the Music Appreciation. But we still get to have fun with some Beatles in both courses. Now, we will talk more about Peter Asher in the upcoming Beatles lecture. If we do one or two, we'll look at that down the road. So be on the lookout for that. Okay. Let's see, I already talked about the live stream. For your live stream music appreciation participation, or for your live stream American music participation, the question was, when you listen to the Beatles, the Beatles Yesterday, Paul McCartney for the very first time, and you do not search up anything, what comes to your mind? While I'm not playing the music here today in the stream, make sure that you listen to the music after the live stream, then come back and leave your comment. Okay, so just giving a little closure repeat there. All right. So that was a little bit of, that's some Beatles, Paul McCartney Yesterday. Yay, cool. We're good on that one. Let's do one more, and then we wrap. So the next song, we want to talk about the story. It's called Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Under the Bridge, it was originally a poem, and now many would consider a masterpiece. And Anthony shares his struggles openly, and he touches a lot of people. Now, the meaning and the story behind the lyrics for many artists have a visceral connection, a deep connection. It's very meaningful. Got some pretty killer guitar playing in the beginning of the song, and if we do a breakdown of the form, like really simply and quickly, I'd say you've got an intro with a guitar solo, and then it goes to verse 1. Then we get a transition. Then we get verse 2. Then we get a transition and a chorus. Then we get a transition and verse 3, transition, chorus. Then I'd say transition, bridge, secondary chorus. Then we get a little bit of a vocal noodle, lead line thing happening. You get an instrumental outro, and you got some guitar and bass just, throwing down, closing out the piece. So that's the basics of the form there. Um, Now, I would say, although Under the Bridge is this is a song about isolation, you know, loneliness, isolation, addiction, recovery. Um, yeah, it's all those things. They, you're maybe you're sad, you're lonely, you're isolated, you're struggling with some addiction things. You're also trying to recover, and this song it's it's gentle, it's calming, it's one of those songs that for many kind of pierces the soul, and it's a popular song. I mean it may be the bands, it may be the Red Hot Chili Peppers, one of their biggest and one of their biggest hits. Um, so I will say that um, substance abuse, it's had a huge impact on a lot of bands, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers are no exception. So the story of we're talking 3 years following the death of Hillel. I'm saying that right. Sorry. We get John Frusciante. He's getting in there. They got their fifth album's about to come out. Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Anthony Kiedis was clean for quite a while, but he did struggle with being clean and isolated, and he felt a little bit of a disconnect sometimes between Flea and Frusciante, because when Anthony was clean, Flea and Frusciante, they were still they were still doing their illegal substances and things, and that made it that makes a disconnect. And Anthony's driving home. They're going to rehearsals, doing their thing, and Anthony's driving home from rehearsals, and he's doing what a lot of us do. Like in his case, he wasn't journaling. I mean, he's about to write something down, but he's singing to himself in the car, and he's lonely, he's sad, and he wasn't happy. Like drugs were having a negative impact on him, his band, his girlfriend, his bandmates, friends. So, Rick Rubin, he would of course call and check and see how things are going, and um, check in with Anthony and the band and whatnot. And it's interesting how this comes about because this story gets told a lot in terms of like, well, what this was really a poem. So for Anthony to try to get through everything, he had to. Well, and so imagine like you're going through obstacle, whatever the obstacle or struggle is. It could be a class. It could be what Anthony was struggling with, substances. It could be, loss. It could be stress, anxiety. There's a long list of just struggles. Anthony's in the car singing through it. Anthony, he goes home and he's like, all right, I need to get this down on paper. So he does get it down on paper, but he's kind of like, I don't know if I should show this to should I show this to anybody? Is this like, I don't know. I need to keep it to myself. It reminds me of a story we're going to talk about later in the course with Beethoven, where Beethoven, he's getting he's getting sad, he's getting depressed. Beethoven is one of our like most well-known, successful, and awesome composers in the history of classical music. And but Beethoven has his struggles. Beethoven had a father that just was not the nicest of all fathers. Beethoven had a very, very unhappy childhood, and his father was his father was just is not a nice guy. I mean, you're talking about Beethoven's dad would come home inebriated, drunk, alcohol, and he'd want to smack up and be it's time to get the whip and go like hit the kids, and Beethoven's dad would you know get on him about like missing notes and raising his voice. It just is what it was, an unhappy childhood for Beethoven, and to uh, to compound this, you know, Beethoven, he goes deaf, and this is probably when I mean, he really starts he's starting to really lose hearing when he's around maybe 26, 27. Beethoven really struggles, and so I'll come back to more Beethoven later. But when I think of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge, Anthony and his struggles, while Anthony he's struggling with substance, Beethoven's struggling with something totally different in terms of unhappy childhood and his father, and he's trying to help protect his siblings, and he a little later in life it just things start to really boil up, and he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Beethoven struggled with the destructive forces in his soul and his desire to live and create. So what does he do? He does the same thing that Anthony does. He gets it down on paper, and Beethoven doesn't show that. Beethoven writes a letter. It's like his way of just getting it all out. Some of us call that like journaling or blogging or writing a poem. It's not a journal unless you do it every single day. Look, there's no rules on any of this stuff. The point being is that Anthony, as wild and weird as it might seem, oh my gosh, how can you talk about Anthony with the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Ludwig van Beethoven? Well, look what they have in common. They both had some serious struggles, and while they're very different kinds of struggles, the common thread is they had to get their thoughts, like they had to get it out. In Anthony's case, singing, um, and then he actually wrote a poem. Got it on paper. And in Beethoven's case, he just wrote a letter to his brother, and was never mailed. And then we read the letter posthumously. Now it's online. You can read through it, and we'll come back to that later. So the point being is getting everything down on paper. So um, at one point, the story goes like this: that Rick Rubin, either he was somehow Rick Rubin had got a hold of this, or um, he's looking through some stuff. Rubin sees it. This story gets like it's like told over and over again. So it's like, well, Anthony didn't just go, "Hey, here's my poem about struggling or whatever." Maybe they were hanging out, or Rick went to visit him, or Anthony maybe had papers. However this went down with all the variations of the story, um, Rick Rubin did actually get to see the poem that Anthony wrote, Under the Bridge. And Rick thought it was brilliant. And Anthony was reluctant. He was like, I don't know, it's just too soft, too chill, too gentle, too calming. This is not the kind of energy, funkiness. This is not like our vibe. I don't think my bandmates, my friends, I don't think they're gonna like it, Rick. And then what happens next is intriguing, because that Rick Rubin convinces him, you got to do it. I really think this is going to resonate with the band. And so he's like, all right, cool. So he does it, and Anthony sings it, sings the lyrics to John and Chad, and they man, it was like, as they, what do we say? The rest is history, pretty much. It's like everybody was like, the bandmates were pretty much blown away. Um, it was pretty much the complete opposite of anything that band has ever done. Period. It's almost like, is this even the Red Hot Chili Peppers? But now, when many of us think of like struggles, obstacles, or even if you're thinking about, if I just push those words to the side and say, hey, like when you think of the Chili Peppers, what are those songs? Well, they've got a lot of songs that people just adore. So everyone's gonna maybe have their own song. Um, but the band really took to this one. So um, you know the whole song is it's about um, Anthony had this connection and when he needed to get his stuff, um, he would go down to like to an actual bridge. So there's a bridge down somewhere downtown in the middle of Los Angeles, as Anthony says, in the ghetto. Um, and this freeway bridge. Yeah, there's like a little passage or small something that you could go through, and it's like only certain members of like people could get through and allowed to go there, and they like you had basically certain members of a gang and ex-convicts, and it's like it was very like guarded in terms of like gang and control of this like secret hush hush area, whatever. And they actually let in Anthony because there was a guy there, this guy Mario. He was Mexican mafia ex-convict, and they would just like hang out and just chill and walk the streets of downtown LA and looking for like their next thing. And so he had a connection into this into the I guess the dark side, as you might say. And so um, he got in. Um, and Anthony talks about, and you can find this in a couple uh, a couple areas, but articles, books maybe. But he says that the reason they let me in because this guy Mario said I was going out with his sister, which this was a lie, so we could just go in there because of course Mario was allowed in, but it's like, hey, who's this guy? So Anthony talks about how this is a very low point. It was a low. He was pretty down. It was low, and he was just trying to, you know, it's like he's trying to get through life and figuring out figuring out how to do it. So the song is about Anthony's struggles, and um, the good news is he gets clean. And Anthony did have his ups and downs with all that, but he kicks it, and he gets clean. He finds the light, finds the happiness. He gets back, to full amazing awesomeness. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers have thrived. Now, I'm not talking about all of the Red Hot Chili Peppers' struggles with the different members. I mentioned a little bit of the preamble, and then Anthony. But the whole point is, with this song, like it's about Anthony's struggles. And while there are other struggles in the group, the focus right now is, okay, what's the song about? Like, is this bridge a real place? Yes. How did he get in there? Well, I told you that, right? Did he kick it? Did he master it? Did he get clean? Is everything all good? Yes. Yes. And yes. So when you listen to the song, it's not necessary when you listen to music to know the story of the song you're listening to. It's possible that some music that we listen to, maybe it doesn't have a story. It's like, well, but there's lyrics. If there's lyrics, isn't there some kind of like deep connection story? No, that's not always the case. There are songs all throughout time that it's a song, and yes, it has lyrics. Maybe it doesn't have lyrics. It can be instrumental. It can be a song that's instruments and has lyrics, text. It can be absolute music that's just straight up music. It could be programmatic music where there's a story, but it can also be. I mean, I hate to say it, but it can sometimes be just nonsensical music. And what I mean by nonsensical music, it's not that like I don't like it. I'm readily admit that I listen to nonsensical music as much as probably anybody else because there's just some music where you're like, well, those lyrics make no sense. So then I'm like, well, why do I even listen to this song? Oh, because I'm riding my skateboard or I'm mountain climbing or I'm at the gym. Like it's because just because the lyrics don't necessarily make sense, it doesn't make it a bad song. And just because someone doesn't like that particular song doesn't make it a bad song. If you do, well, I don't like that song. That doesn't mean it's a bad song. The lyrics are nonsensical. That doesn't mean it's a bad song because we're all drawn to music for different kinds of reasons, for different kinds of things. And so I want to make sure that hits home. So when you're listening to Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, remember that while the song is about struggles, obstacles, and Anthony's whole life struggle, He does find the light. He does get through it. He does kick it. So yeah, uh, that's it. That's all I have for today. That's yeah, that is the stories behind the music. Let me double check in our chat here. Oh, hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. A little good morning there. Good morning to you as well. Okay, no questions in the chat. Awesome. Okay, we'll double check to see. Give wait just a moment to see if anybody has anything they want to ask. I'll double check my notes as we do that, as we're going to wrap it up here. I think we're good to go, everybody. Okay. Well, hey, we've made it through the Elements of Music lecture series. So that's it. That's we're all done. Um, just watch the lectures, enjoy the class, enjoy your music appreciation class, enjoy American music. Make sure to really dig in and watch all these videos to help you with your assignments and your quizzes and your exams. Everything comes from this. That's where all the questions come from. Follow the PowerPoints. Use the PowerPoints to help you with all the vocabulary words and the basics of like the listening guides of a particular song. That should help you out. But yeah, good times today, everybody. Next week we have lectures on Elvis and Beatles. So we'll see you then. I'm Professor Ron. Enjoy the music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.